So I am a new boat owner, and I'm going to be doing the first oil change, actually the 10-hour service on my 2020 Yamaha AR210. I've never done this before, and I couldn't find any good videos on YouTube or on the Jet Boaters forum showing how to do the 10-hour service. So I'm going to be doing this for the first time myself. And for the 10-hour service, you'll need 2 Yamaha oil filters. The part number is this right here. You need 2 gallons of Yamaha Lube 10W40 4-stroke oil. And then finally, you will need Yamaha Lube marine grease. This is the lubricant that you'll use pretty much everywhere. For the 10-hour service, you don't really need a grease gun. You'll need that for your wheel bearings and stuff later, so you should definitely get one. But for the 10-hour service, you can just take this cap off and get the grease right from there. It's a lovely blue color. You will also need a oil extractor pump. I bought one based off of another forum member's feedback. I bought one from Aleco Products. I think it was only like 35 bucks tops, but well reviewed. It has clips so that you can clip and power it from the boat battery itself. It comes with this tube for dipping into the engine, and then this tube for the extracted oil. So this will be the first time using it, but I did my research and this seemed like a really good product, and of course a really good price too. Then finally, you'll need a level for making sure that the engines are level when you're checking and filling oil, and then some rags or a oil cloth. So getting these from the dealer cost me a total of 80 bucks. This is about 23 bucks each for the gallon. They said 1 gallon per engine is perfect. You don't need 4 liters. This is 3.785 liters. So all of this costs 80 bucks. And of course this costs 30 bucks, and that's a one-time purchase. So it's actually pretty cheap, but I've heard other boat owners saying that their dealer would charge them 500 to 600 bucks for the 10-hour service change, and that's pretty crazy, especially since it's not much more than a glorified oil change. One other thing I want to point out about the oil extractor pump that I bought is it had a little black attachment here at the end. And what I did, and I think this is going to work really well, is I took an old 5-quart oil can from doing my car oil. I took the cap off of that. I drilled I believe a 3/8 inch hole with my drill, which was just perfect for this little black tip that's on this. So I stuck it through this end, as you can see it, and then I put the tube back on this end, and it stays in place really well. So I'll just be able to put it on like this and have the oil flow into this container. And I think this should work pretty good. We'll see if I'm wrong. So before you get started with the oil change, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your engines are level. So open this up. All right, so I'm going to take my level and I'm just going to rest it right on top of these 3 spark plug covers. And as you can see, that my boat is not close to level. The engine's not close to level. In fact, I'm going to have to bring it up here to make it level, which means I'm going to have to drop the bow of the boat. Fortunately, all of our boats are on a trailer jack, so leveling it should be pretty easy. So I'm going to lower the front end of the boat to level out the engines now. One of the first things that you're going to want to set up when you do your oil change is set up your water line. And that's because you're going to have to start your engine to get the oil hot. So what I've done is I've got a Y splitter. You can pick this up just at Home Depot, and then off of my hose, that then gives me 2 hoses. I got 2 short hoses, and then all I had to do, just got these off of Amazon, and then all I had to do was get 1 extra flush port nozzle so that I can actually have it hooked up to both engines when I need to. The advantage is I have this, so I can quickly turn it on or off right here, which is really important. And the biggest thing to remember is you always turn the engines on before you turn the water. You can run the engines for about 10 seconds safely before you turn on the water. Never turn the water on first. Same goes with shutting it off. Always shut off the water first and shut off the engines last. The next thing I'm going to do before I actually start the engines is I'm going to check the oil level. And I want to do that so I just have a frame of reference of what the oil level is like when it's completely cold. And then I'll check it again after I shut off the engine and wait 5 minutes, and I'll check it again. So this is the oil dipstick right here. So when you check the oil, you know, pull it out, wipe it off, and then put it back in and screw it all the way in tight, and then unscrew it. And you can see it's actually very difficult to see. Kind of have to go at the reflection. So when I checked my oil level with it cold, this is the low line, this is the full line. My oil level was like right about here, which is really, really low. But again, I'm checking it cold, and my engine isn't perfectly level, although if anything, it's tilted down in the back, so not quite sure why, but I do know that when I check the oil when it's hot, it should probably be above the low mark. So we're going to now start up the engine and try it again. So we're going to start up the engine, make sure that you, of course, put your dipstick back in. We're going to run it for 5 to 10 minutes, then we'll let it sit for 5 minutes. To start the engine, make sure that you've already got your water line hooked up. And run the blower, that's a good habit. Then we're going to start it up, and I'm going to then go back and immediately turn on the water. So we're going to start the starboard engine. So the key here is you can see that the water is coming from the water port. That one is for the starboard engine. And of course it comes out in these places below. The engine's been running long enough. So remember, first we shut off the water, then we shut off the engine. So we kill the water. We got a good 10 seconds. You'll see the water is going to stop here. It has. And then shut off the engine. Now we'll wait 5 minutes, and then we'll check the oil level. I let the engine cool off for 5 minutes, and I'm going to check the oil one more time. I already cleaned this off, screw it in all the way, and then I'm going to show you a trick. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier since it's very hard to see. You've got a yellow stick, and the oil is basically yellow when it's new like this. What you can do is lay it on some paper towels. Otherwise, you're just trying to see the reflection, and there you can see where the oil level was. This time it was above the low mark. It's been about right here. So that goes to show you that it does make a big difference with the oil level, checking if the engine's warm or if it's cold. If it's warm, the oil level shows up a lot higher. So now that I have that as kind of a baseline, I'm ready for the next step. Aside from the oil and filter, here's a couple other things that you're going to need to do the oil change. First, put down some kind of oil-proof mat. You can get these at an auto body shop. I just set mine right there. So, you know, as I have dirty towels, I should probably have these over there. you know, and anything has oil, I've got a kind of working space where I can set things. You will definitely need a funnel. You're going to likely need a tool to remove the oil filter because it's slippy, it has no grip, and the factory has it on pretty tight. I couldn't get it off by hand, I had to use one of these. You'll need some pliers, I'll show you why later. And keep a big towel with you and then a bunch of paper towels, because no matter what you do, it gets a little bit messy. So just be prepared to just kind of keep cleaning up as you go. Now let me show you the setup that I have. So I just connected the oil extractor to the red clamp to the red terminal, black clamp to the black terminal. That will be my power for the oil extractor, which is here. This is the tube that extracts the oil, and you can see that I have it in the hole where the dipstick was. There's also a second hole, which is really important, and I'm going to show you later, but it's this guy right here. There are 2 extraction points for the oil on these engines, so I'll get to that in a second. In any case, the oil is going to run up from that hole and from our oil extraction hole later through this tube into the pump, and then through this clear tube into my empty 5-quart container. And I showed you earlier how I just drilled a little hole, and it just fits in there perfectly. I've got plenty of room to set it down. I already did this oil change on the first engine and I had no issues with that. The messiest part will be the oil filter, which is right here, and we'll talk about that later. So there are 2 different spots where you extract the oil from this engine according to the Yamaha service guide. One is obviously there where we had the dipstick. The other one is right here, not here. Here. It's very hard to tell in their diagram, their hand-drawn diagram, but this is not what you want. You want the one in the back. You can see it's got more of kind of a ribbed surface, and then you'll loosen up that clamp. And the whole purpose of this tube is for oil extraction. So, but I also found that you need to do it in both places to really get all the oil out. So what we're going to do next is we're going to squeeze this clamp right here. We're going to squeeze that to take the tube off. So we'll just use our pliers to squeeze this and then pull the tube off. Okay, so I just pulled this off. You can see how it sits on this thing, and this doesn't do anything. This is just a plastic nozzle only for the sole purpose of having somewhere for this to go. This you just, you know, use to stick your extractor tube in to extract the oil. And another tip is you can always keep this extractor running so you're not dripping oil everywhere. So let's go ahead and turn on this extractor. You can already see it's pulling oil, and there it goes down in. Now I'm going to show you how you can put this same tube in the oil extractor tube. I need to bring this over here a little closer. And once it goes in far enough, there you can see it's extracting oil again. As there gets to be less oil for the extractor to pull, you'll notice the pitch of it increases. And sometimes you can just, might be because you can push this down a little further, you can hear the sound lower there. Although it seems like this is kind of, all I'm really getting. You can see there's still some oil going through, but not much. So you can't use just the oil extractor alone for this reason. It doesn't get everything. So in fact, what you want to do is use both the oil extractor pipe and the oil dipstick. Now if you watch this, look how much more oil I'm getting. There we go, you can see all that oil coming through. So I'm not sure why the service manual doesn't really tell you that you need to use both, but I know for a fact you can't get everything out with that oil extractor. You've got to use both that and where the dipstick goes in. Then finally, after we take out the oil filter, we'll suck some oil out of that as well. So you can see the pitch has gone up. It's not getting as much oil anymore. Still getting some. Not a ton though. But looking here, I can tell I don't have nearly enough oil. I should be pulling 3.2 liters, which would be up around here. So the key here is to be patient, keep maneuvering this in different spots till you get, you know, at least 3 liters of oil out. That's not nearly enough. Another thing that's going on, I just put this back in the dipstick and all of a sudden I start getting a whole lot more oil coming out. Another thing that might be happening is because the engine is running, the oil is seeping back down into the oil pan slowly, and when I waited a while, not doing it there but doing it here, gave a chance for that oil to collect, and now it looks like tons of oil is coming out. I don't know, either that or somehow I didn't have the tube all the way in as far as it's supposed to be. That's interesting. So if I push it further down here, it blocks. If I pull it up a little bit, it's free flowing. So you think it could be right here is the very bottom, and now it's got enough room for oil to flow. So now I'm getting a lot more oil coming through, and this guy's starting to fill up. All of a sudden I started seeing what looked kind of like dark things going through the tube. Let's see if it happens again. It wasn't air bubbles. I don't know what it was. Let's see if we get it again. I'm wondering if it's the metal shavings. There we go. So I want to show you something that I've noticed. You know, as I get down to not quite as much oil left, notice that the color gets a lot darker. And in particular, you can almost see bits of, I describe them as bits of silver in the tube. That I didn't notice before. So it's pretty interesting. So I just shut off the pump and let kind of some of the oil, some of this last oil here stay in the tube. And it's interesting how it's hard to tell in the picture, but it's more darker, it's more of a gray. And then at one point I thought I saw some kind of shiny things in it. So I think this is a really big testament to the fact that the 10-hour service is important to get some of those metal shavings out of the oil. So I've been doing this for probably a good 15 minutes or so, just trying to get this little bit of oil, extra oil out. It's really slowed down. I think I'm close to the end. And again, you can see the type of oil that comes out at the end here is like, it's like gray and thicker, and it's weird. But I'm at 3 liters now. So next thing I'm going to do is shut this off, and we're going to do the oil filter. You are likely not going to be able to remove this oil filter by hand, so you will need a tool. I'm going to use this guy. There you go. You can see we're finally able to turn it. Even after I finally got it loose, I still needed this tool to keep loosening it up for a while. So it is on there really tight. Now, before you take off the oil filter, be prepared. There's a lot of oil that's going to come out and it will make a mess. So you need to, you know, after you loosen it up, do not take it off until you have put some paper towels down underneath where this oil is going to spill. Just shove the paper towels down in there. Then get a couple other paper towels just ready. Just keep them there. Then I would turn on your oil extractor, and as you start unscrewing it, use the tip of the oil extractor to suck up some of that oil that's coming out. Now I'm not going to be able to show you this because this is a two-handed thing, but as soon as you get the oil filter out, turn it upside down. That way the oil that's in there stays in there. Use this and your paper towels to clean up the mess as you go. The filter off. You can see I had that there kind of sucking things up. I had a paper towel around it. Still a bunch of oil. Notice there is still a lot of oil in this. All of this would have come out if I didn't flip it quickly after I took it out. So now we're going to use this to suck up all the oil around in here. And you can even use this to suck up some of the oil around the ring that you got on the engine before you clean it up. Finally, if you put it inside here, you'll also get some oil. You see a little bit of oil is coming out of there. Now I just put this back in our oil extractor, and guess what? I'm getting more oil than I used to. So that's probably, again, some of the oil settling because I left it for a while. But there's the rest of our missing oil. I'm going to do the same thing back in here again as well after this one seems to dry up. Here's another tip to make your cleanup a little bit easier. You can even use your oil extractor. And suck up the rest of the oil from the oil filter. That'll also help you know exactly how much oil you really got out. Alright, so I think I'm done. I have done this multiple times, both in there and in here. Let's see how much oil we have. Alright, so it took some persistence, but you can see I've got about 1, 2, 3 3.2 quarts or 3.1 liters. The service manual does say that the amount of oil that's supposed to be in there is, I believe, 3.4 liters if you replace the oil filter, which I did. So I'm not quite there. I mean, 3.4 liters would be about there, but I'm close. I don't know what else I can do, and it could be that the dealer originally filled it low too, for all I know. So we're going to do a couple things now. We are going to reconnect that guy, and then we'll start filling oil, and we'll put the oil filter on too, of course. Final thing about the Aleko oil pump that I used. Overall, I think it worked pretty well. Again, if you want it, you can get it at Aleko Products, ALEKO products.com. I'm just letting the last of the oil drain out. This was from my port engine. This is from my starboard engine. So whatever I did it pretty consistently, and the oil that was in both is pretty consistent too. And finally, I can just take off my little adapter here and it helped that I changed the oil in my Jeep a lot, which is why I had these 2 empty containers. But really easy cleanup now to dispose of the oil. Now it's time to do the new oil filter and the new oil. First though, do not forget to reconnect this guy with the clamp. I'm going to do that now. All right, we got the oil extractor clamp back on, and we are ready to do the oil filter. The first thing you'll want to do is just dip your finger in the oil and put a thin coat of oil on this gasket. Notice something in the service manual, which I could have used earlier. It says when you're removing the oil filter the first time, it says punch a hole in the top of the oil filter using a nail or the like so the filter can breathe and drain the majority of oil inside of it into the engine. This will help minimize oil spillage from the filter during its removal. Do not use a tool such as drills that may cause metal shavings to fall into the filter. I have no idea. I mean, this is metal. It seems pretty solid, but I guess if you could gently hammer a nail into that, then you'd let it breathe and you'd have less cleanup than I did. All right, but now I've got my oil filter. I've got the oil on the gasket, and we will just put this guy on. Now, in terms of how much to tighten it, the service manual says to do it with how much torque. There it is, 12.5 foot-pounds of torque. Obviously I can't use a torque wrench. I'm just going to be kind of doing it by hand, or I'll probably use this tool just to make sure it's on there really good. But so just guess. It doesn't have to be perfect. My oil filter removal tool to actually tighten this guy. One note, don't over tighten it, especially with this tool. When I was removing the old oil filter, I actually bent the oil filter by using this guy. So be careful. That's fine with the old one, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to bend your new oil filter. That the metal housing on the oil filter is not that thick, which might be why they say that you can punch a hole in the top of it. All right, so the oil filter is on. Next, we are going to do the oil. So here's something pretty interesting that you wouldn't likely figure out or know unless you bought the full service manual and read it. When you fill the oil, obviously you're going to fill it in the dipstick hole, but there are actually 2 places where you fill your oil. One is the dipstick hole, and then there is another cap right here. You take this cap off as well, and then you're going to fill it in both of these holes. I'm assuming that they have you do that and they designed it this way because if you just fill the oil in there and you start up your engines, there's not going to be any oil up here kind of at the top of the cylinders, I guess, and it could cause some wear, overheating, or something like that. Obviously, their engineers went to a lot of trouble to create this hole for this singular purpose. There's no other reason for that hole to exist. So make sure you do that. The manual says to pour about half in here and half in here, and then you should be fine. So I am going to do that now, and I'll start with this one and use my funnel. So I've filled it up. This is about how much left I have in this container, maybe half a liter, which this is 3.785. That means I put in about 3.2 or 3.3, which is about the same amount that I pulled out. So again, I'm trying to be conservative. I've also heard some people say that if you fill up your engine fuller, you have less performance. I don't know if that's true, but some people have found that filling it up like a little less than halfway between the low and full mark. In other words, about here's low, here's full, about right there. They've reported better performance. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm going to measure it now cold, but I don't think that will really tell me that much because when I've measured it cold before, it reads extremely low. I'm going to do my paper towel trick so that you can easily see how much oil is on there. But after the oil change, I'm going to run it again and then do a oil check. All right, so you can see, oh, actually it's right above that low mark. So basically kind of where I wanted it. All right, so now we are going to, don't forget to put this cap back on. And put our dipstick back in. Final thing to do is go around, clean up any extra oil that we might have spilled. I'm gonna do that quick, and then we will start up the engines and test it out, let it run, and let the new engine oil get warm. So final test, start up the engine, the starboard engine. Then I turned on the water supply. As you can see, the water's coming out fine. And now there's everything looks and sounds good. Obviously, make sure oil's not spraying anywhere or anything like that. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot else for you to look at. We're gonna let the engine run for 5-7 minutes. Then I'll shut the water off, shut the engine off, and I'll check the oil level.